Hi, everybody. Professor Gustin here, and we're in week one, part one. And I'm going to just run through kind of what each section of the week is going to look like, and and then I won't do that again. It's just kind of because this is the first time. But each week I do create a video. I'll create it at the beginning, the part one of the week. And I just like to give you a little feedback and any new information for the week. So I recommend watching these videos. It can kind of help you stay on top of things and be reminded of things. So you'll end up here, microbiology lab online. And hopefully by now you've found this lab book, print this entire book. If you click on that, you will see right down here, there's a link to a PDF. You click on that, and this is the entire lab book for the semester. I recommend, sometimes the download is up here, but sometimes it's down here. So here it is. There's the download. I would click the download, and that will download it. Mine goes up here. So there's the lab book. I'm going to click on that. Print this entire thing. Okay, it is designed to be printed double-sided. I do not recommend that you print it in color just because it kind of wastes your printer ink. But I do recommend referring back to the lab book periodically as you get to things that you want to see colors, like there's one that's a slide that's been stained. It's a little bit easier to see in color. There's some things, again, things like that. You can see those. Sometimes the colors are really critical to understanding what the stain is. Here's a gram positive and gram negative. The purple and the pink are important. So I would recommend coming back to the electronic version of the lab book periodically. There's some more where colors are important. And towards the end of the semester, we get to looking at some actual petri dishes with bacteria growing. And again, the colors can tell you a lot about the microorganisms. But like I said, don't waste your printer ink on printing it out in color, because most of it you don't need in color. You can just go right back to this electronically. So print that out. Have that. I highly recommend getting a 3-ring binder so you don't lose everything. And then you're going to go to, as you already did, obviously, because you found me, week one, part one. And here's where, there we are, week one, part one. I'm going to, and if you're not sure what that means, go look at the syllabus. Your syllabus tells you the due dates for week one, part one, all the assignments and all that. So there's our introduction video that you have. Here's the virtual labs that are embedded in the lab handout. So the lab handout that I just told you to print, or the lab book that I just told you to print, if you follow the lab along, it's going to ask you to do all these different virtual labs, VL. And right now, you can't click on it. It's dark, it's frozen, and that's because it's not open yet. So it will open prior to your being able to do it before the week assignment has started. I have had students that ask me, oh, can you open up all these virtual labs so I can do them early? And then I found students that just don't do anything, but just keep doing all the virtual labs, whether it's the right week or not. And I just don't think that that's a really great way to learn the material. It doesn't reinforce what you're learning. It just gets you through, doing these. So I open up the weekly virtual labs with the assignment. They're all designed to open the Friday before the week starts. So, and then some of the weeks you'll have a lab quiz. That link for this is active. You can click on that. And remember, the lab quizzes, once you've completed filling out the entire lab handout, you're going to take the lab quiz. Actually, let me go back to that handout. Go back to the lab book. I'm going to go back there. And I just want to show you, actually I could have just gone here because I downloaded that. Okay, so here's the lab for this week. It always has the objectives. There's the virtual lab that I showed you the link in Brightspace. And so there's not a link right there. You have to go into Brightspace to get the virtual lab links. And so you'll do that virtual lab, and then and that brings you to McGraw-Hill Connect. Okay. And then when you complete it, the grade will go automatically into your grade sheet. So just by completing it, you get 100%. And if you're not sure how many points 100% is, look in your syllabus. It has all those. So you see here, part 2. Right here, what I did is I made a video. So there's me, and I'm telling you about some things in the actual lab. And what I recommend that you do is watch the video, read that, and then fill in the answers here. And there's some more questions there. There's another virtual lab. You're going to go back to Brightspace, click on the link. There's another one. When you watch sometimes I'll ask you some questions to record from the virtual lab. Here's a link to the CDC, and watch that video, answer those questions. Every once in a while, some of you might have heard there's a lot of changes going on to the CDC webpage, and I am finding that a lot of stuff is getting changed or moved or whatever. So if by chance you click on one of these things and it doesn't get you to where you think you should be, let me know. I do check these at the beginning of the week, but they get changed. It might change. So answer all these questions. And here we go, virtual lab. Here's a couple more virtual labs. So do those. And again, there's some questions. So, and there's the next lab. So what you're going to end up doing when you get to I went to the wrong spot. When you get through all those virtual labs, your handout is filled out. Now you can take that lab quiz. And the lab quiz is you take the lab handout. Most of the questions on the handout, most of the questions from the lab quiz are on the handout. The exception is if I ask you to do something, like this week, I'm asking you to do metric measurements, and I might ask you to do a conversion, something that you did on the handout, I might ask you to do it and give you different numbers. So you got to make sure you understand how to do these things. But you can use your handout to answer the questions on the quiz. Remember, if there are questions that you have to fill in an answer rather than just a multiple choice, I have to hand grade it before your grade is updated. So, and I typically hand grade if anything needs hand graded, I will do it after the due date, like the day after the due date. Okay. All right. So there's week 1, part 1. Remember, that's due this week. It's due on Thursday. Every other week, part 1's due on Wednesday. And then you'll go on to week 1, part 2. I won't make a new video. I'll just have one week 1 video. That's this. And you can see there it is again. Go back to your lab handout. Start filling it out. There's the virtual labs. This week, there's no lab quiz. So you just have virtual labs. Okay. So that being said, it's still important that you fill out the lab handout because you will have a lab practical, and the material on this lab handout will be on that lab practical. Okay, so that's the routine for the week. And if you look on your syllabus, you'll see week 1, part 2 is due on Sunday at 1 minute before midnight. All right, so there you go. That's going to be the routine for 5 weeks. Notice there's a lot to do, so don't put it off to the last minute. Email me if you have any questions. I'm glad to help. Have a great week.